Hello and welcome to the Hungaroring as we get ready for rounds 5 and 6 of the FIA World Touring Car Championship. Massive grid walk underway, lots and lots of Hungarian fans in the paddock, all just desperate for a glimpse of their hero, Norbert Michelisz. Well, cloudy skies overhead, it is cold, it's only about 12 degrees and 19 degrees of track temperature. I mean, habitually the air temperatures here are in the 30s and the track temperatures up towards 50 degrees. They are all wrapped up here as if it is winter because it properly feels like it today. Well, yesterday Norbert Michelisz had a chance to meet the Hungarian Shell Eco Marathon team. This car has been designed to go as far as possible on a litre of fuel. Last year they got 2,366 kilometers out of a litre. This year's car will do over 3,800 kilometers on a litre of fuel. Now, the Shell Eco Marathon comes up in Rotterdam the weekend of the 17th and 18th of May. In fact, you'll be able to see that on Eurosport on the Sunday. And as you can see, the driver there, considerably shorter than most racing drivers. She is absolutely tiny because body weight and size absolutely vital in this. And yes, that really does move. It looks like some tiny little sculpture. Remarkable efficiency on its minute engine. Well, there is the scene behind the garages. There is the scene down on the grid here. And of course, the grandstand below us absolutely packed with humanity at all. This is a massive, massive attendance race. They get a crowd here as big as any Hungarian Grand Prix. Well, good afternoon, everybody, wherever you are, wherever you're joining us. Down on pit road, Alex and Ben, and up in the commentary box, me and James Nash, I'm delighted to have alongside us this weekend. Well, James, of course, racing in the championship for the last couple of seasons, last year for Bamboo and the year before for Ford. And it's a particularly tough week for Bamboo, James, this week.
Yeah, very sad news, and our thoughts go out to the family for the Volcards. Nigel, unfortunately, had a stroke and a tragedy, so our thoughts go to them.
That the crowd goes completely wild for, and that is this man here, Norbert Michelisz. Hello, sir. How are you feeling ahead of race 1?
Yeah, it's amazing to be here. I'm always waiting for my home race. It's always positive because you take a look at the huge amount of people and the support and love I get. It's just amazing.
You had a tough day yesterday. How is the car today? You ready?
Yeah, of course. It was a slight damage. We are always ready for the challenge. I will do my best, and hopefully we will have 2 good races.
Your fans will be very happy and very excited.
Yeah, I'll do my best.
Well, they had to change the front left wishbone on the car this morning. It was in Parc Fermé after qualifying, and the reason he didn't get all the way through to the top 5 in qualifying, even though he had the pace, was that there was some damage to that left front corner. I'm not quite sure why it collapsed, but it just did. Well, here in Hungary, it's the 3rd of our 12 race weekends, 2 races at each, so we're rounds 5 and 6 of the championship, 2 14-lap races around this Hungarian Grand Prix circuit. The long front straight provides a great touring car overtaking opportunity. You dive down the hill into the massive braking area at turn 1, the wide turn 1, and then the hill down to turn 2 give a great opportunity for passing. Crucial for speed, turn 4, blind, over the brow, fast left-hander. And again, you can pass here, but you have to be clinical and precise. Through 5 and down to the chicane, avoid really hitting the curbs hard. It is going to disrupt your aero, less grip, and it's also going to damage your suspension. Although apparently not if you have a Citroën, they are built tough. Well, the back run up through the circuit again, climbing back up from the valley to complete a lap here at the Hungaroring. And James Nash, it is a tough track on tyres. Let's hear from Rob Huff.
Coming out the last corner, up to 4th gear, bit of rumble curve on the exit. Past the thousands of adoring Norby screaming fans, up to 6th, looking for my brake point down into turn 1. Hard on the brakes, get it down the gears. Bit of a lock up on the front right, bit of oversteer, get back in. Hard on the power, modulate the wheel spin up to 3rd, up to 4th. Tricky left-hander coming up, off camber, tend to get a bit of oversteer on the way in. We've managed to brake early enough to avoid that. See the car being a bit twitchy, squeezing the power on, back to the right hand side, tried to take it flat, hit the curb, rumble strips on the apex, up to 5th gear, fast corner, going to take off on the apex, down to 4th, over the curb, hold your breath, let the car land, back to the right, down to 3rd, get in, get in, get in, there we go, get on the power, good bit of traction on the exit there, up to 4th, tight little chicane, slowest corner on the circuit, don't take the big curb but take the little one, get the traction, use everything on the exit, hard on the brakes, into the left, up on the curve, landing hard, back to the right, oversteer as we go in, struggling for traction all the time, back to the left, flat left-hander, up to 5th, brake down to 4th, bit of oversteer as we go in, Tiago in front, he's kindly moved out of the way with the assistance of the marshals with their blue flags, down into 2nd, up over the curb again, get on the power, get some grip, pull the next gear, on the limiter, down to 2nd, working hard on this lap, trying to find the grip, use all the pit lane entrance on the exit, into the last corner, come on, stay in, yeah, that's good, let's go, 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 rumble strip on the exit, and that's a lap of the Hungary ring with me, Rob Huff.
Well, James Nash, great indication there of how much work is required and what the driver is thinking all the time, balancing, understeer, oversteer, and you know how and when you can use the curbs and so on around these laps.
Yeah, of course you don't actually say them out loud, but you have cue points in your head as to where you need to pick up the power and what you're trying to get the car to do. It's all a mental process, this driving.
Well, qualifying dominated by Citroen's C. Elysée, Ivan Muller, Jose Maria Lopez and Sebastian Loeb 1, 2, 3, ahead of Thiago Monteiro and Gabriele Tarquini. The two Castrol Hondas getting through into our top 5 shootout in Q3. Tarquini miscuing his lap, straight line the chicane, and as a result knew that any time would be disallowed anyway. Mehdi Bennani starts alongside him. The Toms, Chilton and Coronel, and all Royal Motorsport Row 4, ahead of Gianni Morbidelli and Ugo Vallant. And 9th and 10th, they will be 2nd and 1st on the race 2 grid. So Vallant will start on pole in his Chevy, ahead of 3 further Chevrolets. Race 2 might be entertaining. See how the Citroens can get through. Below them, everybody will start in positions 11 on down for both races. Dusan Borkovic failed a ride height test after qualifying, lost all his times. He will start at the back of the grid. And Yukinori Taniguchi, we haven't got a headshot yet for him because he's just joined the championship this weekend. So that will be added to the graphics package for next race, hopefully. But Yuki is back with the championship race with Bamboo Engineering a couple of years ago in their Chevrolets. And, of course, James Nash raced with the team last year. And as we were saying, although Bamboo not here this year, they are still racing. They're racing the GTs. And very, very sad news. Nigel Volcard, one of the principals of the team, passed away this week after suffering a major stroke out riding bicycles with his son Harry. So to Harry and Ollie and to Heather, his wife, we pass on our very, very sincere condolences from everybody here in the World Touring Car Championship. It's a tough, tough time for them. First of 3 black and white cars on the grid that we get to, although the last in qualifying is René Munich. Had a great start to the season, really found pace in this new Chevy Cruze. At the sharp end of the grid is World Rally champion Sebastian Loeb. Let's hear from him.
Yeah, well, there's always one person that we want to hear from. 9 times World Rally champion Sebastian Loeb. Sebastian, you're sitting 3rd at the moment of the 3 Citroens. Tell me what your strategy is.
The strategy is to try to take a good start, because we know here the start is really important, and after it's difficult to overtake, so try to defend my position at first, because we know the Honda starting very well normally, so and then we will see.
Starting from a standing position is not something that you're actually used to, is it?
I'm used to, but normally I'm alone.
Yeah, true.
So it's a bit different. So. But I will see. I will try to concentrate on the start, try to make a good one, and then the race will be quite long. It will be hard for the tyre, so we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, all about tyre strategy.
Thank you very much, Alex. Thanks, Sebastian Loeb. Of course, as a rally driver, it's all about standing starts, you know, 6, 10, whatever it is, number of stages a day, all with a standing start. But in terms of his racing experience, James Nash, GT races tend to be rolling starts. And that is a valid point. He says, you know, it's different from rallying. You're on your own. Here, there is a lot of fast-moving machinery. And that's one of the real secrets of being a racing driver, is avoiding all the other stuff.
Yeah, you've got to have a good clue as to what's going around you without actually looking. It's all about sound and vision.
Well, James Thompson lying in 13th place on the grid. Behind the Citroens, though, is Gabriele Tarquini, who starts 5th.
3 Citroens and then 2 Hondas behind. And Gabriele, just making some changes to your car on the grid here, missing out a little bit from warm-up and the opportunity to get the car really tweaked?
Yeah, we never test before this race weekend here in Hungary. It's always very difficult also to combine the temperature, because the temperature dropped at least 10 degrees from yesterday, so we need to fine-tuning the setup, and the last modification was really at the last second.
And so what you're hoping from just changing the camber a little bit there on the rear end?
But yesterday in qualifying I had some misfiring problem on the engine, and now seems that everything works correct. I hope to follow the Citroen and in the start, and just here the start, the first corner would be very hot. So just to avoid accident on the first corner, and after we go, it's a very long race because our wear will be very, very hard. So we'll see. I mean, we have no experience, not a lot of experience with this car on the long range, but we try to do the maximum.
Good luck, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, the key to the rear camber change, they're adding more camber, meaning that the bottom of the wheel sticks out further than the top, which means the tyre runs essentially not on the full flat surface of the tyre, but on the inside corner only. Now, that would be death to your road car. You'd wear them out in far too... But what it does is it brings temperature into the tyre. You're running on a much narrower tyre, effectively, James, and that's to counter the loss of temperature in the rear in these cold conditions.
Yeah, the rear tyres have obviously got wider this year, and they're really struggling to maintain heat, especially in temperatures like this. We're not used to that. And the other problem they have is with wet track as well. So to give it more camber, they're really trying to put the heat into the tyre and minimise the loss there.
Down, you can see there on the grid, James Thompson and Rob Huff together, and between them, Marco Calovolo, and I could see him looking up to the heavens in his little red larder cap. I wonder if he is feeling drops of water yet. There's certainly no indication that it is raining. You can see everybody down there on the grid still milling around, enjoying this opportunity to get onto a grid in a World Championship race. And of course, for the Hungarians, see, listen, you only need to see him on the giant screens, and the air horns and the cheering just multiply. This is what it's all about. And James, I think maybe you were a little bit surprised this weekend, walking around in the paddock, not in a race suit, not on the grid, not racing, and yet people are still stopping you for an autograph. That's what his presence in the championship has done for World Touring Cars here in Hungary. People understand it, they know it, they spot you even though you're not dressed as a racing driver.
Yeah, he's really brought World Touring Cars to Hungary. They love him and they love the championship as well, so all the other drivers that go with it, they're big supporters of it, and it's great to be part of.
Yeah, they are absolutely massive motorsport fans. He is one of the biggest sporting stars here in Hungary, same as Mehdi Bennani in his homeland in Morocco, and it really throws the championship into sharp focus. There's a big touring car fraternity, a big support for touring cars in Argentina, but having Lopez in the World Championship is going to do the same for the World Championship as opposed to TC 2000 in Argentina. I think when the teams go back this year to Termas de los Honda, they're going to find a whole new generation of interest and enthusiasm for this championship. Well, one of the features of the championship this year is the new car. And part of the new car is hidden away from view. It's the new suspension regulations. All cars predominantly use McPherson struts nowadays on the front of the car, but the new rules allow them to be used on the rear. And the strut works as this. You've got a spring which dampens the movement of the car on the suspension, or which absorbs the shocks from the road, and a damper built within it that stops it bouncing up and down. Little reservoir that allows you to adjust the pressure in the dampers. Anti-roll bar links the front suspension across underneath the car as on your road car and stops the car rolling too much, and that allows you to keep maximum wheel footprint on the ground. And lower wishbone to spread out the forces to stop too much pitch and roll front to rear. And of course, with rear McPherson strut suspension as well, we've done away with the beam axles that most front-wheel drive production cars have, and we have got now fairly sophisticated racing setup. It's not full wishbones, but it's the next best thing for touring cars, and it helps them keep a good, strong aero platform. What it does mean, though, especially with the high aero we're running now, James, is you want to try and avoid the curbs as much as you can, because that can damage the car and doesn't help your aero grip either.
Yeah, they've got a full flat floor, and to maximise that, they need to stay off some of these curbs.
Well, we have an all-Royal Motorsport Row 4, 7th and 8th in qualifying, Tom Chilton and Tom Coronel. Coronel didn't put a single new tyre on the car until qualifying. The hit that the car took in Marrakesh has also hit the budget for the season very hard indeed, and Tom's having to be really careful about what they spend where. However, it does seem to be producing speed, and I think it feels, if anything, just a little better than it did before it had its accident in Marrakesh. Maybe that's because he hasn't driven it for a weekend and he's desperate to get back in.
Yeah, he seems fairly comfortable this weekend with it. We have seen a strange setup on his car, and you can see that from the rear wing predominantly. A lot of rear wing, so he has got an imbalance there and he's trying to correct it with that rear wing.
Or maybe he's looking for more rear tyre temperature by putting maximum downforce on the rear wing. Mehdi Bennani, really quick in free practice and in qualifying. Really impressed by the speed that he produced here. Only just got squeezed out of the top 5 right at the end of Q2. And as you saw, the Moroccan flag, some fans coming to join him here. But he and Gabriele Tarquini and Targa Montero really taking the battle after Norbert Mikulic's car broke its left front corner, really taking the battle to Citroën. And everybody apart from Citroën having lost the 60 kilos penalty for having a new car after the first 2 races, it has helped to close the gap a little, and that will have a knock-on effect in the races as well, James, because a lighter car wears the tyres a bit less, correct?
Yeah, totally correct, yeah, and this race and this circuit is really hard on the front tyres, so they will struggle with front grip, and it's who can manage that the best. These Hondas are lighter, so they will be a bit lighter on their tyres.
Well, Thiago Montero starts alongside the first of the Citroëns we get to. He's in 4th place with Sebastian Loeb in 3rd. Of course, behind Loeb, on that side of the grid, behind pole, is Gabriele Tarquini. Singularly, the world's greatest starter of a front-wheel drive touring car. I think there's absolutely no question about that. So Tarquini is not to be ruled out of the mix in the run down to the first corner. And if anything, Loeb's got the hardest job, not trying to take the lead. He's the rear gunner, isn't he? And you know, the first thing he can't do is outbrake himself and hit his teammates in front. The second thing he can't do is allow any of the Hondas to get by. So he's really got the pressure on his shoulders.
Yeah, I think the last 2 years as well, we've seen an accident turn 1 into turn 2. So, you know, he's right in the middle of it. He needs to protect his teammates, but he needs to stay in front of the Hondas.
Now, the battle for pole finally won by Ivan Muller by a whisker from Jose Maria Lopez. Less than 0.04 of a second between them. And Lopez is the joker in this pack. He is the guy who could so easily get down the inside and win this. But let's hear now from our pole man.
Yeah, sitting up here, not only on pole, but also in front of the the other 2 Citroëns is Van Muller. Van, looks like it's going to be a dry race.
Yeah, absolutely. The track is completely dry. We're on a dry setting, dry tire now. Yep.
And how are you feeling?
I try to stay focused because the start will be in less than 3 minutes now.
That's a very gentlemanly way of saying, OK, thank you, let's go. Well done, Alex. Well, Ivan is ever keeping his cards close to his chest. He must have a plan to try and beat Lopez into the first corner. Let's see whether it works for him or not. We're 3 minutes away from the start of race 5. Jose Maria Lopez is our points leader from Sebastian Loeb and Ivan Muller, and they start 1, 2, 3 on the grid. Lopez with Sebastian Loeb rather with new tyres all round. James Nash, as you might expect, Ivan Muller and Jose Maria Lopez both with new front tyres. Okay, well, let's see if we can hear from Rob Huff now on the warm-up lap.
Hello everyone, once again an unbelievable atmosphere here on the Hungaroring. We just started our formation lap, heading to turn 4. Now the focus is on keeping temperature in the front tires to get the maximum grip when we have to get off the line. From the feeling, the car is really good. We had a well-balanced vehicle yesterday in qualifying, unfortunately bad luck. I will do my best in the races. So support, thank you everyone who came today. I will do my best and I will go for maximum. Bye.
I wasn't quite sure who we're going to hear from there. I sort of second guessed it would be Rob Huff because he was with the camera and the onboard microphone yesterday, but of course Norbert Mikulits. And there's no question he will be absolutely bleeding red, white and green to try and get his car somewhere near the front.
And Norbert, like Loeb, is on 4 new tyres, so it's, he obviously thinks he hasn't got a balance issue around here. Brand new rear tyres is obviously going to give him a lot more grip, and at the end of the race maybe see more understeer, so we might see a change towards the end of his grip level.
So Mikulits starting 11th place. And there is always a story around Norby here. Winning races, heartbreakingly having races torn away from him by incident and accident. But whatever, it's always entertainment. So Citroen start 1, 2, 3. Honda 4, 5, 6. And then 7, 8, 9, 10. All Chevy RML cruisers. Round 5 of the World Touring Car Championship is about to get underway. It's a cold and blustery Hungaroring as we get ready for rounds 5 and 6 of the World Touring Car Championship. The grid headed by 3 Citroens, then 3 Hondas, then 4 Chevrolets, and the rest. Dusan Borkovic right at the back of the field. Local hero Norbert Mikulits starts 11th, 6 car back, number 5 on the right-hand side of your screen. The green flag is ready. Our race director will start the sequence. 5 lights go on, the revs rise, clutches are biting, it's a very quick start. Good start from Tom Coronel, boxed in by Mehdi Bennani, getting away slowly. Thiago Montero and Gabriele Tarquini have both gone by Sebastian Loeb. Lopez defending against the Hondas, allows Muller to take point into the first corner. It's Muller and Lopez. Montero and Tarquini. Loeb goes the long way around the outside. Understeer City can't get the power down early enough. Behind him is Mikulits, already up to 6th position. Stunning start from Norbert Mikulits. He's inside Loeb for 5th. He's going to Bennani is in front of him, so in fact that's for 6th and 7th. But he's got by Sebastian Loeb, who is being shuffled into the pack. He hasn't. He's still inside. Now he's got through ahead of Toms, Coronel and Chilton. That's a bit of a disappointment for Loeb, but a great start from Norby. The crowd will go mental, James Nash.
Yeah, we can't wait to hear him come past, and the noise that he'll create, it will be amazing. He's done a great start there. It's incredible to get him there. He's got Bennani in front of him. He's really got to push hard. He's on 4 new tyres. Now is the time that he'll get the benefit.
11th to 6th in the first couple of corners, and Muller and Lopez in front. Just to remind you, the Citroens, like all the other cars, new at the start of the season, had 60 kilos of new car ballast. Because they're the fastest cars, they have not lost that. Everybody else now running 60 kilos lighter. And on this abrasive, tyre-killing Hungaroring circuit, the Citroens need to escape, so they've got a margin to nurse their tyres later. But Thiago Montero and Gabriele Tarquini and Mehdi Bennani and Norbert Mikulits, that's 4 Hondas right behind, are going to make sure that they have to work very hard on their tyres.
Yeah, they've got Norby chasing him. They've got to get a move on, and they can't let these Citroens go, because as soon as they've gone, they'll never make that time back up.
Norby trying to get by for 5th position ahead of Mehdi Bennani. Bennani in 5th. Mikulits, listen. The crowd rise to their feet as he comes by. Behind the second train, led by Coronel. That's Coronel, Chilton, Thompson, Huff, Vallant, Morbidelli, Kozlowski, all in a queue. And Hugo Vallant with the bright yellow colours as Tom Chilton tries to get inside Tom Coronel.
So a change between Huff and Thompson there. That's Thompson leading the the Lada group.
Yep. And Chilton has got a loose bonnet. Now, it didn't look like there was contact between him and Coronel, although there might almost be there. But one of the bonnet pins hasn't been secured, and so that is going to be a real distraction. It's in front of the driver, so he'll see something flapping around up and down into his vision. But the other effect, of course, is that it's going to disrupt your underbonnet cooling and your aerodynamics. He might run into high temperature problems.
Yeah, and that pin probably won't support it for the whole race either. And if that flicks up, he's going to lose vision, and it will do a lot of damage to the roof.
Yeah, absolutely right. And the reason having a gap there and more air coming in might ruin the cooling is the cooling is really controlled to go through the turbo and the intercoolers from the front and then exhaust out through the arches and through the bonnet. And if you've got air coming in and tumbling around, basically it'll stall any cooling air, and he might well end up with the car suddenly going very, very hot on him indeed. Muller and Lopez out front at the start though. Watch the second car back on the right. Loeb falling into the pack as Mikulits, the red and black on the left-hand side, pulls out into the slow lane and just goes storming all the way down the outside. Well, from Loeb's camera, it doesn't make great viewing. It's almost like he had his own personal damp patch on the track that was causing wheel spin. With Tomo behind Norby. And through the first corner, all safely through. Muller, Lopez, Montero and Tarquini, the gap starting to open up. Muller, James Nash just setting the fastest race lap at 150.5, well inside the old track record as Huff defends against Hugo Valent's Chevrolet.
That was very close.
Yeah, Huff really had to get the door shut in a hurry there, didn't he? The Chevy had a good run in him down the straight and comes by. He's going to make him go the long way around the outside. But Valent and Morbidelli are there all over the back of Rob Huff in the Lada, and through goes Morbidelli. Little contact with Hugo Valent. As Valent loses a place, he drops down to 13th. Rob Huff now in the Lada in 11th position. James Thompson into 10th place. Look again at this. And Valent in the middle there, trying to attack, left the door open from behind.
Yeah, he got forced to a direction, and that just left the door open for Morbidelli to slide in underneath him. Hugo couldn't do anything about that after that.
Morbidelli wasn't trying to force him off the track, but coming in tight, the car's always going to drift out wider. Second, Tom Coronel pulling away from Tom Chilton, but James Thompson, first time Lada seems to be running well for him. I probably shouldn't have said that. Let me touch laminate here on the desk and see if that helps in any way. Well, Muller and Lopez, the 60 kilos does seem to be having the effect of just slightly blunting the performance of the Citroens compared to everybody else, but they are still able to hold themselves away from the Hondas that pursue them. So if Arne here, car number one in the lead.
They're just having to work harder now.
Yeah.
It's much more exciting for us to see that, and we're really seeing Ivan pushing ultra hard to get this gap.
Look further back, here come the Hondas. Montero, Tarquini, Bennani. Mikulits not close enough, but he's got Loeb for company. So Sebastian Loeb, as you expect, has not given up a chance of coming up the order. Tom Coronel outbreaks himself a little bit. One of the problems he had in Marrakesh, he said, was inconsistency in the brake pedal in the Chevrolet. And there was a deal yesterday, wasn't there, where the brake balance adjuster didn't work for him, and he ended up breaking it off or breaking it in some way.
Looks like he's broken again.
Yeah, it does look like he's got more rear braking than he wants, and that means just locking it up going into corners as the back goes light, as the nose dives. Just the same in a racing car as your road car.
I think we might see Loeb start attacking now. He'll start coming through the field.
Yeah, Mikulits has got to really make use of those all-new tyres. Loeb also on all-new tyres, so honours are even there. Of course, Norby is jammed up behind Mehdi Bennani and the other Hondas, and so Loeb's just got an open goal to attack. Whatever Mikulits does, Loeb can watch him and try and counter.
With this extra downforce, it's really hard to follow another car, so that they'll be feeling a dirty air effect. So you really do need a faster car, and maybe with Loeb he's got that opportunity with a faster car to overtake.
Yeah. Of course, the longer he sits behind Norby, the more worn his front tyres are going to be, but the same for Norby behind Mehdi Bennani, the more worn his tyres are going to be. And maybe that is why Thiago Montero at the moment is comfortably the quickest of the Hondas. Last time round at 150.6 to 150.9 of Tarquini. who's in his drag. And then Bennani and Michelic slower again because they're following not 1, not 2, but 3 and 4 cars, and so even more turbulent air. Chilton has to come in. He's been handed or shown the black and orange flag. Now, that's not a mandatory pit stop, but it is a warning that the officials think there's something wrong with your car. I think he's probably been brought in because, first of all, the team have seen on camera that there's a problem with the bonnet, and secondly, I'm sure the under-bonnet telemetry is telling him it's getting far too hot.
Yeah, saying you've got a mechanical failure, you have to come into the pits and get that rectified, and then you can continue.
Yeah. But I think he probably needs to get that bonnet fixed just to stop the engine boiling itself to pieces.
Yeah, there's no point in doing any more damage either.
He's not the only Chevy in the pit lane either, because René Munich is in, and Mikhail Kozlowski is in the pits for Lada as well. So Kozlowski out of the race. René Munich has been pulled back onto the apron by the All-Inkle team as we watch Hugo Vallant in the yellow and white car attacking Rob Huff in the all-red Lukoil Lada. Huff on the brakes into turn 4. You normally want to get in as quickly as you can. It's a very quick turn, but clearly not feeling with a full load of fuel on board that he can do much about it.
Where's Morbidelli gone?
Morbidelli.
He's past Thompson, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got by Chilton and Huff. Chilton coming into the pit lane, of course.
There's 2 Ladas and then the...
Oh, Morbidelli, yes, you're right, absolutely. He has got through. So he's passed them both. He was in front of Rob anyway, wasn't he? But he's obviously done Tomo somewhere out of our sight. So 5th of our 14 laps. And behind Dusan Borkovic, started at the tail of the field, up to 14th place now. So failed the ride height test after qualifying. Unfortunately for him, there's the Vallant pit wall. Tyre pressure change for René Munich. So we're understanding, but I'm not sure that was entirely what ailed him. Obviously, he's not feeling the comfort factor in the car that he was in Marrakesh, and certainly in Marrakesh, and to a degree last time in Paul Ricard either. And you know what? Maybe it's all part of the cold temperatures here. I'm sure these cars must feel very different because it's so cold. They must feel really quite up on their toes, James.
Yeah, obviously these cars are all new, these Chevrolet, so it's an extended test session for them, and they're going to get as much information as they can out of it.
Well, Dominic Greiner, who's engineering René Munich's car, has told Ben Constantius that they are now basically in a test session because he's not feeling the confidence in the car to really push. Norbert Michelic there in the Mol Group car, the red and black Honda Civic, still in front of Sebastian Loeb. So Loeb will be out of the top 6. And all this, of course, is of slightly academic interest to the Hungarian fans, although having Norby battling a legendary figure like Sebastian Loeb is always grist to the mill. But what it does mean for Jose Maria Lopez and for Ivan Muller is that one of their teammates isn't going to score strongly, and it's all stirring the championship points pot. Well, if Gianni Morbidelli could get by these two, you imagine that Hugo Vallant must be thinking, now, how's he done that? Why can't I get by these Hondas?
It'd be interesting to see that mistake maybe that Thompson made, because it all happened rather quickly, and Huff's really closed up.
Well, Mikhail Kozlowski with cooling issues is still in the pit lane. I'm sure he is out of the race at the moment. And even in these cold temperatures, James, the heat that the turbos get to, you know, they glow white hot, almost see-through. The metal gets so hot, and cooling is really a factor. You know, even if it was snowing, the underbonnet temperature would still be unbelievably high.
Yeah, you want the exhaust and the turbo to run as hot as possible, cleanest escape for the exhaust gases then. But the rest of it obviously needs to remain as cold as possible.
Of course, Kozlowski in qualifying, one of the hoses blew, and we saw dramatically the water gushing out from the bonnet vents and through the wheel arches, and I wonder if it's a knock-on of that. With no morning warm-up, the race is the next chance you have to actually run the car and make sure that you've glued it all back together properly. So I wonder if that's going to have knock-on effects. Just to remind you, our race leader is Ivan Muller, now 2 seconds clear of Jose Maria Lopez. Lopez coming to the Hungaroring. This is the first track in the championship that he had actually raced on previously. He raced here in GP2 a few years back before he returned to racing in Argentina. And of course, you know, for the first 2 or 3 minutes, you know your way around a little bit more than discovering a new track, but these guys learn things so fast, and in effect, it doesn't actually really make much difference.
No, within 5 laps they'll know where they're going. It's more things like where they go in the paddock, where the toilets are, where they need to be.
And what 15,000 forints means in real money, which is not as shocking a price as you think it might be. Thiago Monteiro there in third, shaking off Gabriele Tarquini as well. Tarquini, Bennani and Michelic in this little queue don't seem to be working as fast together as the single Honda of Monteiro on its own, and that's slightly surprising. You know, this is quite a quick circuit. I suppose the problem is there are too many fast corners.
Yeah, it's a very, very hard track to overtake anyway. With all these fast corners and following with this extra downforce, they'll be losing grip all the time, and their tyres are slowly going away. So now it's going to be where people start making mistakes.
Well, the gap coming down, Muller to Lopez was 2.0. It's now down to 1.8. Jose Maria Lopez a full 1.2 seconds quicker than Ivar Muller last time round. Still 6 laps to go after this.
Is that a rare mistake from Ivan, or is that his tyres going off?
Well, it might be the fact that they've had the magic call on the radio, whatever the Citroën equivalent of team orders is. Rob Huff dives to the inside of James Thompson. No orders between these two. This is about trying to race. And of course, you say, well, why don't they just follow each other? Well, because you don't learn much by following somebody. You learn by racing your cars. Hugo Vallant gets down the inside. I wonder if Thompson is struggling with his steering issues again. Rob Huff goes through, Vallant gets through, and Borkovic in the background, the red, white and blue of Serbia. He is looking to go by Thompson as well. Tomo's car suddenly going off the boil. It might just be that his steering gremlins have reappeared and the car didn't really look like it wanted to turn into corner 4 there, did it?
No, we spoke to him the other day and he was having real trouble with the steering, and it's just after a few laps he just loses all feel of steering.
Well, it might just have been that he was a fraction offline, a bit late turning in. He might have left the door open before Borkovic, figuring it was a done deal. Just looked a little like Tomo was struggling with the car.
Yeah, lack of confidence, I think.
That too, yeah. Steering goes west on its own accord. You're never going to be thoroughly overjoyed with it. That makes this then the battle for 10th place. Huff is in 10th ahead of Vallant, and then Borkovic and Thompson. So Huff in the red Lada. Again, even though these cars have got more aero, they're more stiffly sprung than before, more firmly damped, still get that dive under braking, still very visible. Can't alter the laws of physics, Jim.
You certainly can't, and they've got more power as well. Although they've got the wider tyres, they've got more power going through them, so the same problems.
Absolutely right. Ivar Muller holds the gap to Jose Maria Lopez. Lopez only 0.05 of a second quicker than Muller that time round, so the gap stationary at 1.8 seconds. And you feel that the Citroën pit wall have requested that there is no more racing between the top two. They want to get both cars home on the podium. Loeb down in 7th place at the moment. Rob Huff in front of us as we ride with Hugo Vallant. He gets a run around the outside and goes by the Lada. Huff has to use the runoff area just to keep power down. So as they get to turn 4, he now is under pressure from Borkovic.
And that runoff is wet as well from this morning, so he's now got wet tyres and they've cooled down dramatically. He's going to have to work really hard to get these tyres back up to temperature.
Of course, if you push them too hard once the temperature drops off, you end up ruining them rather than warming them. Borkovic with a big lock up behind decided to get out of that inside line before it was all too late.
Was Rob pushed round there? Was he helped?
No, I don't think so. I think the line just took him off wide. He just kept his foot mashed to the throttle, didn't he? And just kept bending the firewall to try and get more oomph out of it. There's the Borkovic family and fan club. They are all tall at the back, aren't they?
Very tall.
They're actually standing on something, but Dusan Borkovic just gets his nose out of the way. Girlfriend punching the air with delight. So, tough break after qualifying to lose his qualifying times. Ride height failure. I don't think it was materially that much of an influence in his pace in qualifying, but he's come back up through the field. 12th place at the moment and looking for 11th. And this is the pass of Hugo Vallant on Rob Huff.
Quite
yeah,
right.
Huff with a big slide, and yeah. Well, that's interesting that the tail steps out rather than he washes away from the corner. He's holding the front in nice and tight, but he's obviously got a very twitchy tail to the car, and that's what you need really to make the car turn.
That's right, but it's downhill off camber, and we've spoken about the rear tyres losing temperature, so maybe he's got that coming in, and he's trying to brake to keep that nose in, so the nose is rotating, the rear's rotating around the front. There's nothing really you can do about that.
Yeah, tail wagging the dog, and of course that means if it's going sideways, it's not going forward as efficiently, and the car behind was, so he gets that little jump in momentum. Again, looking back from Huff, climbing up the hill. Great elevation changes on some parts of this track. Muller now extending his advantage in the lead over Lopez, out over 2 seconds. Savan for the first time in several laps, pulling a lead as Huff holds on ahead of Borkovic. This is for 11th place. It's not even going to pay any points, but James, you're a racing driver, you're racing, you've got to carry on. You can't just go, yeah, it doesn't matter.
No, and like we said before, they're all learning as well, and this is an extra step for them to learn. They're all learning about each other. Borkovic is a new driver into this championship, so he's now racing with a world champion, Rob Huff, and he wants to understand what he does and how he moves the car around.
And he wants to overtake him. And you know, and there is no guarantee that the cars that finish in front will all end up being legal at the end of the race weekend. So
as he suffered.
Exactly. It's always worth pushing on. Franz Engsler in front of Pasquale Di Sabatino. Engsler really hurling the BMW around in the TC2 class. Sabatino got the best out of the car in qualifying, but Franz has been racing 3 Series BMWs almost since before the 3 Series BMW was invented. And so he has got lots of knowledge to draw on in that car. I tell you, when Di Sabatino beats Engsler in a straight fight in his own cars, then he knows he's done a good job. I wouldn't suggest for a moment there's anything less in Pasquale's car than there is in Franz's. It's just the experience that Franz has got is always going to be an advantage for him against an equal car.
Yep, getting a single lap out of the car is very different to doing 14 hot laps. Completely different mentality the driver has to have.
And of course Pasquale is learning how the tyre wear works and all of that stuff, because he's new to that car, whereas Franz raced it for the last couple of seasons, and before that the normally aspirated 2-litre engine, and so on and so on and so on. So it's all in his data banks. He's just got to react to it all. There is the Citroen pit wall, looking passive as ever. Muller and Lopez circulating comfortably ahead of the field, 4.7 seconds ahead of Thiago Monteiro. And Sebastian Loeb, well, he said at the beginning, when he was talking to Alex, we think this is going to be a tough track to overtake on. I just want to make a good start. Didn't make a bad start, but there were others around him that made really strong starts. And Loeb just got swallowed up in turn 1, and he has proved it is a tough track to overtake on. He's not been able to make a pass all race. Muller and Lopez 1-2. Monteiro will be on the podium at the moment in 3rd place, ahead of Tarquini, Bennani and Michaelis. So in terms of the constructors' points, Citroen 1st and 2nd, but Honda, the next 4 cars. And that might be a little bit of a surprise that the Chevy Cruze is not so much on the pace here. The best Chevrolet is Tom Coronel in 8th, Gianni Morbidelli in 9th, Ugo Valente in 10th. I mean, they've absolutely been outpaced so far, not just by Citroen here, but by the Honda.
Yeah, that's some work that Honda have done over the winter, and they're really making that pay here. You know, we saw the Chevrolet as a 1 lap, not too far off, but obviously once they've backed everything off, the cambers and everything from qualifying spec, racing, not quite so good.
No, and the Honda guys were saying, Thiago was saying the other day, that they've made quite a significant step change by sitting down and having time to scratch their heads and work things out in the week off between Paul Ricard and coming here, which they hadn't had between Marrakesh and Ricard. It was basically pack up, travel, unpack, race. Now they've had a bit of time to think about it and work on it, and the car has made a bit of a step change. The weight coming out has also helped in terms of less to haul around with your engine power. Pasquale Di Sabatino sends it to the inside for the lead in TC2. Does he hold it on the exit? Well, Engsler had to wind off the lock a little bit when he saw him coming, didn't he, James? But that was a confident single-seated driver's move.
Yeah, that was. He threw it down the inside there, but the last shot we had, there was quite a gap between these two. So has Frank made a mistake somewhere, or is he just running slower?
Well, we saw him throwing the car around a lot, didn't we, when we were watching him? Pasquale has a monster lock-up, and suddenly the gap will come right back down again. Last lap by Engsler, a 56.8, a 55.9 by Di Sabatino, so a full second quicker. So yeah, maybe that Engsler just ran out of road somewhere around the back of the circuit and allowed Di Sabatino to close right up. Fastest lap of the race for Ugo Vallant in 10th place at the moment. He's talking to Alessandro Mariani of Sport this morning, and he was telling me that Citroën tested here at the Hungaroring 6 days during the winter, including 2, he said, when it rained all day long. So the Hondas were not looking forward to a wet race. They've had 1 day of testing, Honda, when it was wet on the track. So he said, if it's wet, they'll just murder everybody.
No, but they've got to be pleased with where they are now.
Yeah.
A lot of cars right at the front there. A fantastic start for them.
Well, not much in terms of drama, not much in terms of a race really going on in the top half dozen. All the gaps are fairly large. Rob Huff still holding off Dusan Borkovic. And again, as we saw when he was talking us around at the beginning of the show, using the belly of the car over the curbs there at turn 4, really using as much of the road as you're allowed to, and he needs to keep the Serbian behind him. Well, Borkovic is impressed with his racecraft this year, James. I mean, he's come in from the European Touring Car Cup, so he's had sort of an idea of, you know, the guys in the World Touring Car Championship a bit, but to be watching from the outside and then to be, you know, dropping into it is very different. I mean, you must have found coming from British touring cars into the World Championship, different cars, different circuits. I mean, it's an awful lot to get to grips with.
It's a big step change, and he's taken that on very well, and he's racing hard, and he's made up ground through this race. So he will be pleased. He will be getting frustrated and very hot behind the wheel, sitting behind Rob, not finding a way past, but Rob is very good at his job.
He is indeed. So too is Ivar Muller. Started on pole position, made no mistakes. For the first time this year, I think, made a decent getaway, and that was crucial because he got in front of Jose Maria Lopez. Otherwise, Lopez, for the first time in his World Touring Car career, might have been looking at winning race 1 rather than race 2.
Using the right buttons this time, not the pit limiter to try and get off the line.
Exactly right. It's enough to confuse a bear of little brain, and apparently a 4-time world champion as well. All the settings on the steering. This time he got it absolutely hooked up. And again, like I said earlier, if he makes a mistake once, he very rarely makes it a second time. Thiago Monteiro in 3rd. That'll be a reward for the Honda guys. And he's the first of 4 consecutive Hondas. So again, manufacturer points all racking up. But now 8.7 seconds behind the leader and 6.7 behind second place. So Muller and Lopez, there's no question in my mind, for the last 10 laps, Muller and Lopez have been running nose to tail, holding station, and have been requested to do so. And, you know, Muller won't care. He'll be very happy with that, thank you. Lopez will go, okay, well, the next time I've got to get in front and then it'll all work for me. And that's the deal, you know, if they're going to rigorously enforce the team orders, you just got to get in front. Ivar Muller did. He wins race 1 from Jose Maria Lopez. And in the Honda race behind, Thiago Monteiro in 3rd place. Good result for him. Gabriele Tarquini in 4th. Mehdi Bennani in 5th. Norbert Michelis in 6th. And Sebastian Loeb 7th. Unable to make any inroads at all into the Hungarians' 6th position. Citroën a 1-2 result. And the Honda guys looking pleased with the improvements they've made to the car. Looks like Thiago still had decent pace at the end of the race. His last lap, a 1:52.0, less than 2 seconds slower than his very fastest of the race. He finishes on the podium in 3rd spot. Race leader Ivan Muller comes down pit road. Mehdi Bennani making his way urgently to the Pro Team garage to try and make sure that his heavily smoking Honda is in some way fixable, and the waft of burning oil now fills the pit lane. Well, Ivan Muller, his first pole position of the season, started at the front in race 1. You can see all the friends and family there in their red, white and blue tops, supporting the French world champion who climbs out of his Citroën with victory here in Hungary. Well, James Nash, confident performance by Muller, and really controlling the start was absolutely crucial for him.
Yeah, it certainly was, and it's great that he's got that done and sorted, and that'll be a big relief for him. Very few mistakes, which is what we normally expect from him. So now he can start relaxing and really getting into that role.
31 points behind Lopez after Marrakesh. He is now 12 points off the championship lead. Outscored his teammates in qualifying and in the race, and he must now do the same again in race 2 and keep on doing the same. Very happy Thiago Monteiro. Some very happy Alsatians there, aren't there? The classic Alsace beret as well, the big white flat beret. And lots of happy Norbies, and some proper Alsatian moustaches as well. Lots of good tash work going on, liking that a lot. And Pasquale Di Sabatino, for the first time, our winner in TC2. So good news for him. He's starting to get to grips with that Liquimoly BMW. Beat Frank Sengster to the line for the first time this season. So delighted for him. And Pachito, Jose Maria Lopez, second place, but he is still our championship leader. Well, let's get down and join Alex. She's with Ivan Muller.
Yeah, Van Muller, congratulations. A win here in Hungary, pole position, and you kept the lead. Well done, you.
Yeah, I knew the start will be one of the key of the race. I did a good start. I could keep the leadership at the first corner, and then I drove my best to make a small gap on Jose, but he pushed hard until the end. He didn't give up.
No, but you were 4 seconds ahead of third place.
Yeah, but not enough from second place, because we were playing between 1/10. It was a gap of 2/10, 2 seconds with Jose, but 1/10 for him, 1/10 for me. So, you know, the race is long when you are a leader like this.
Race 2, you start from the back with Lopez, and now what will happen this time? Lopez goes in front or you?
We'll see. It will depend of the start.
Excellent, well done.
Well, to a degree, James Nash, how traffic opens up in front of you is going to control that, isn't it? But let's hear now from Thiago Monteiro, third for Honda.
So best of the rest and third on the podium again, Thiago. You actually looked like you had the match to the Citroens for at least half the race there.
Yeah, I was obviously trying to push very hard and trying to follow the rhythm and see what they could do and what we could do. We're seeing Pachito making some mistakes, so I was hoping that, you know, the more I push them, the more they will eventually make some mistakes. But after a while, of course, everything stabilized. The tires degradation starts to come in play, and I was pushing really hard until, to be honest, the 80% of the whole race. But then I saw it's not going to happen. But I push until the end because you never know.
And how did the tires last? You were talking about you being very confident on old tires.
Yeah, it was exactly, I mean, better than expected, to be honest. The tire degradation was not so big. It was 1 second more or less from the beginning until the end, so it was, well, not a lot. And we did a good setup, I think, for the race, as we talked about earlier.
Thanks very much, Thiago.
Thank you.
Good job by him. Good job too by Pasquale Di Sabatino, our TC2 winner. They're going to have a good night out in Budapest tonight. I can't imagine they've got a late flight tonight. They'll be off tomorrow and celebrating as Ivan Muller wins. And again, James, you know, race 2, when they're starting 7th, 8th, 9th, let's hear from Pasquale Di Sabatino. We'll talk race 2 shortly. He is our TC2 winner.
Well, it looked like Franz was going to keep the lead through the entire race, but Pasquale just snuck through in the last couple of laps. Well done.
I did a good start, just a little bit mistake in the first corner because my start was really, really good. So I have to fight with this one car, but Franz was a little bit more lucky. But in this race, I am a little bit more fast than him. So we did a legitimate fight, but he used to pass me because he see to the mirror that I come more fast than him. But I'm really happy, my first victory in WTCC in TC2 class, but I'm really happy.
Great result, we're really happy for you too.
Thank you. See you what happened in the second race. Thank you.
So Pasquale will head out onto the podium. Well done. A good battle with Engstler, as he said. Franz saw him coming. I mean, you know, you can try and defend that, but all that's going to happen is both cars are going to get wrecked, James.
Yeah, and they just hold themselves up. You know, they're there to go and get a podium for the team. They did a good job and raced hard.
Now, what's Ivan winding him up about? He is a proper wind-up merchant, Muller. So that was the first of our two races here in Hungary. Short turnaround between the two races, just enough time for a bit of repair time to refuel, retire, and re-prep the cars, make any changes that might be required. And maybe, James, after race one in this, you know, these proper Baltic conditions, it is 10 degrees outside, it was 20 degrees yesterday nearly, maybe they are going to rethink some of the setups.
Yeah, they will do. See what else they can do. But also, race two normally throws in a bit more to the mix. You know, they're out there now. The cars are survived race one. Let's go hit it hard there.
Let's see if there's something special for the Hungarian fans to cheer. Let's see who else has a big day in race two. The big drama, though, I think, for repair time, such as it is going to be the Pro Team garage, and I'm sure Ben and or Alex will be down around there to see what's going on. Before that, though, we will get our drivers out on the podium. Argentine flag proudly flying alongside the French one. And of course, we also have Portugal and Italy. Third place is Thiago Monteiro. Second place, Jose Maria Lopez. And your race winner for round 5 for the FIA World Touring Car Championship, Ivan Muller. They will be joined on the podium by our TC2 winner, Pasquale Di Sabatino, and by a team representative from Total Citroën Racing.
From Italy.
So first time on the podium for Pasquale.
And now the French national anthem of the winning driver. And the French national anthem again of the winning manufacturer. And now the trophies are coming. Mr. Miklos Benyó, President of National Automobile Sports Federation of Hungary, presenting the trophy.
The national
for
anthems for
driver
the
Thiago
winning
Monteiro.
driver manufacturer, hearing in our ears from Ben Cross and Juris in the pit lane that Mehdi Bennani will not start in race 2. Turbo failure and not enough time in repair time, or even by taking him out of Parc Fermé to get the turbo changed. In fact, in repair time, it'll barely be cool enough to handle James Nash. You know, something running at 1,000 degrees is not going to cool down quickly. So, some very vocal singing of the Marseillaise by the Ivan Muller friends, family and fan club. And he will be cheered to the echo as he receives the trophy for the race win. Now, somewhere in my stats, I could probably, if I had time, look and tell you how many times Ivan Muller has won in the Hungaroring. So he's probably won at least once here before. Probably more than that.
I think it's one of his favourite tracks, actually. He seems to always go very well here.
Yeah. Well, having been with the RML Chevy Cruises, having been with the turbo diesel Seats, he's very often had a strong car underneath him in this championship. Pasquale Di Sabatino winning the TC2 class for the first time this season. And that's a step, isn't it, James? When you get your first victory in the class, you know, as an independent, when you get to that stage, you go, OK, great, now I'm starting to make the progress, I'm starting to get to grips with the car, now we can really start to see something happening.
Yeah, you can concentrate on the rest of the season rather than taking it step by step and really just focusing on that one big goal of winning. You can relieve that and concentrate on smaller things and your actual driving.
Yeah. Because then you've proved to yourself and to everybody else that you've got the potential to do it, and you know it can be done, and that's a big step change. So hopefully Pasquale will be an awful lot closer to Franz Engstler, maybe seeing a bit more of him in the rearview mirrors. Muller and Lopez, the top two in race 1. Thiago Monteiro finishing on the podium in 3rd position. Tarquini never quite able to make the impact that I thought he might do in the race. I thought he and Thiago might end up being basically one long, extra long red and white chassis and sort of towing up behind the Citroens, but Tarquini just didn't have the pace that Monteiro did. Norbert Mikulitz, 6th position, you've got to say, from 11th on the grid. That was a pretty impressive getaway, and if he can do that again in race 2, then he'll be doing very well indeed. And of course, if he ends up with a couple of Citroens in front of him easing their way through the traffic, who knows? Who knows? I'm sure the fans, in fact, half the grandstand is empty. They've all run round the back to get some scoff, which we're significantly missing at the moment. No lunch for us.
Along with a heater.
No, yeah, along with a heater. I was just saying to James quietly during the anthems, this is colder than being in a bobsleigh booth. So it is very cold indeed here. And that is going to have an effect, you know, it'll have an effect on tyre life, it'll have an effect on the way that the tyres work and the way the car is set up, and I'm sure in repair time there will be a bit of camber adjustment or suspension changes or whatever. Not for Bennani's team, unfortunately Pro Team will have to push the car back into the lorry, and then, well, I imagine they'll try and put a turbo on it before it goes back in the truck, because they're just driving straight to Slovakia now. I know it's only a couple of hours drive by truck, but you don't want to be opening it up on Monday morning with jobs still to do when you've got time to do them here. Well, there is the Drivers' Championship. Still, Jose Maria Lopez, our points leader, as he continues with what has been an outstanding season so far in the Citroën.